Picture a galaxy untouched by the machinations of empires or the order of hyperlanes. A primordial universe where stars burned freely, and the vastness of space held nothing but the untamed potential of existence. It was in this raw, boundless reality that something extraordinary began to stir, a presence that would forever shape the course of the galaxy. The Force, an energy that binds all living things, existed quietly, weaving its unseen threads into the fabric of creation. For millennia, the Force was nothing more than a faint whisper in the background of life. Its existence was unnoticed by most, save for those attuned enough to feel its subtle pull. These early sensitives were not warriors or mystics. They were wanderers, dreamers, and survivalists who trusted their instincts when faced with the unknown. A farmer might find their fields flourishing when guided by an unexplainable intuition, while a hunter's path was illuminated by a pull they couldn't articulate. This connection wasn't about power. It was about alignment with something greater, something harmonious. As time passed, this awareness deepened. Beings began to recognize the Force's duality, a reflection of life's own contrasts. There was vitality in light and growth, but also wisdom in shadow and stillness. Early Force sensitives perceived these energies as part of a greater whole, a symphony resonating through land, sky, and stars. They saw its currents in the laughter of their children, the steady decay of nature, and the rhythm of waves on distant shores. The Force was everything and everywhere, a connection both deeply personal and immeasurably vast. Communities across the galaxy, though separated by the vastness of space, began to explore the Force in their own ways. On lush planets, it was revered as a nurturer, a life-giving essence. On harsher worlds, it was seen as a test of endurance, rewarding the strong and cunning. Though their interpretations varied, these cultures shared a common understanding. The Force was not a tool, but a presence. It was a mirror, amplifying the qualities of those who connected with it. Compassionate souls could bring abundance to their worlds, while selfish ambitions often led to ruin. The planet Jeddah, later known as a sacred site for spiritual seekers, provides one of the earliest recorded tales of Force sensitivity. Mystics on Jeddah were said to calm storms or summon rain in times of drought. Quiet acts of service that reinforced the Force's role as a guide rather than a weapon. Elsewhere on Tython, the Force revealed its volatile side. Volcanic eruptions and violent quakes seemed tied to the emotional states of its inhabitants, prompting them to study the Force with discipline and caution. Meditation became their refuge, allowing them to navigate its turbulent currents. Yet the Force was not always used for harmony. Among those who felt its call, there were some who sought to dominate rather than connect. These individuals discovered the darker aspects of the Force, using it to manipulate others or fulfill their own desires. Early conflicts arose, small and localized, but they foreshadowed the eternal struggle that would come to define the galaxy's history. Despite these early challenges, scattered groups of Force sensitives began to develop rituals and teachings to express their understanding. Symbols, languages, and philosophies emerged, tailored to the unique cultures of their creators. Some chose lives of seclusion, dedicating themselves to balance and introspection. Others became wanderers, sharing their insights and gathering knowledge from across the stars. These early practitioners, though diverse in method, were united by their shared connection to the Force. The first seeds of what would later become the Jedi Order were planted in this era. It wasn't an institution or a code, yet. It was a loose gathering of beings who recognized the Force as the thread binding them to one another and to the galaxy itself. They were explorers in every sense, venturing into the mysteries of the universe and the uncharted depths of their own spirits. And so, the Force awakened, not with a roar, but with a quiet call to those willing to listen. It offered a path of discovery and connection, challenging its followers to evolve and adapt. This was the beginning of a journey that would echo through the ages, for the Force is ever-flowing, ever-changing, and ever-present. Tython, a world of breathtaking contrasts and primal beauty. Imagine towering mountain ranges shrouded in silvery mist, crystalline lakes that mirrored twin suns, and ancient forests where the whispers of the Force danced through the leaves. Yet, Tython's true allure lay not in its geography, but in its unique resonance. The Force pulsed here with a strength unmatched anywhere else in the galaxy, a phenomenon that drew dreamers, scholars, and mystics alike. Long before the Jedi Order arose, Tython was home to the Jedi, a collective of Force practitioners. They were not Jedi as we know them, but seekers of the Force's mysteries, striving to understand its unified nature. To them, the Force was a singular energy, with two complementary aspects. Ashla, representing light and growth, and Bogan, symbolizing shadow and reflection. This philosophy of balance became their guiding principle and their ultimate challenge. The Jedi did not settle Tython by chance. Ancient chronicles speak of celestial phenomena, storms, auroras, and visions, that pointed explorers toward this unassuming planet. Guided by the Force, the first settlers arrived aboard colossal ark ships. These pioneers, a diverse group of scholars, warriors, and healers, shared a singular goal: to unravel the Force's secrets. On Tython, they discovered a world as alive as it was volatile. The planet seemed to mirror the emotional and spiritual states of its inhabitants. When harmony prevailed among the Jedi, the skies remained tranquil, and the land thrived. But discord triggered violent storms and quakes, as though Tython itself demanded balance not just from the Force, but from those who dared to inhabit it. To honor and study this connection, the Jedi constructed 9 grand temples, each devoted to an aspect of the Force. Among them, Kesh, the Temple of Balance, perched atop the planet's highest peak, symbolized their central tenet. From its summit, the stars seemed to hum with the Force's currents. Other temples, such as Kesh, focused on Force mastery, while Kesh explored the intersection of science and spirituality. Together, these temples formed a network of knowledge, experimentation, and enlightenment. Life as a Jedi was a transformative journey. Initiates, known as journeyers, traveled between temples, learning from masters and embracing the Force in its many facets. Training was rigorous, but the most profound lessons emerged in quiet moments of meditation or in facing trials that tested their connection to the living Force of Tython. As their understanding deepened, the Jedi began to encounter the Force's darker truths. Ashla offered serenity and growth, yet Bogan tempted with power and control. They believed true mastery lay in embracing and balancing both aspects. This quest for equilibrium, though noble, was fraught with danger. The allure of Bogan's power led some down a perilous path, testing the limits of their philosophy. Central to Jedi training was the Great Journey, a rite of profound introspection. A Jedi would isolate themselves on one of Tython's moons, Ashla, bathed in eternal light, or Bogan, cloaked in shadow. For weeks they would meditate, confronting their innermost truths and fears. Only by returning to Tython with their spirit balanced could they progress. Failure meant either attempting the trial again or leaving the Order entirely. Over centuries, ideological divisions began to emerge. Some Jedi revered Ashla as the pure essence of the Force, rejecting Bogan as a corrupting influence. These differing views grew into open conflict, fracturing the Jedi. Tython, sensitive to the turmoil, erupted in chaos, its once balanced environment turning hostile. This era of strife, known as the Force Wars, marked the Jedi Order's demise. The victors, champions of the light side, chose to leave Tython. They believed the planet's intensity magnified their divisions and sought a fresh start on neutral ground. These exiles would later establish the Jedi Order, carrying with them the scars and lessons of Tython. Tython's revelation was as much a warning as it was an awakening. The Force demands balance, not as an abstract ideal, but as a lived truth. Those who walk its path must confront the dualities within themselves, for the Force does not merely surround us, it defines us. The exodus from Tython marked more than a physical journey. It was a profound reckoning. Those who left Tython carried the Jedi Legacy, burdened by the scars of the Force Wars and tempered by hard-earned lessons. Their destination was Ossus, a world whose tranquil beauty and harmonious energy offered a stark contrast to Tython's volatile power. Here, amid verdant landscapes and serene rivers, the first seeds of the Jedi Order took root. Ossus welcomed the weary exiles with open arms. Its calm atmosphere and gentle hum of the Force provided a sanctuary for reflection and rebuilding. Near a sprawling valley where a river wound gracefully through the land, the settlers established their first community, naming it Aurelia. This settlement became a haven for those seeking to study the Force in an environment free from upheaval, where the energy of the planet did not demand constant vigilance. In these early days, collaboration and introspection defined the settlers' efforts. The Jedi who transitioned into Jedi sought to distill their fragmented teachings into a cohesive philosophy. While the Jedi had embraced the balance of Ashla and Bogan, the Jedi began to view the light side as the clearest path to enlightenment. This evolution reflected their experiences on Tython, where the dangers of the dark side's pull had led to catastrophic conflict. The construction of the first Jedi temple on Ossus signified the beginning of this new era. In contrast to the grandeur of Tython's temples, this structure was modest, reflecting the settlers' focus on purpose over ornamentation. Built atop a hill overlooking Aurelia, the temple's central chamber featured a circular design with an open skylight, allowing starlight to illuminate their meditations. This sacred space became the heart of the Jedi's burgeoning philosophy. At the core of their teachings was the Jedi Code, a set of principles emphasizing discipline, compassion, and selflessness. Debated and refined by figures such as Master Kala Darin and scholar Venya Prol, the Code emerged as a living doctrine, flexible yet rooted in values designed to resist the allure of the dark side. This emphasis on adaptability and introspection ensured the Code's relevance as the Order evolved. The Jedi Order's structure began to solidify during this period. Unlike the fluid hierarchy of the Jedi implemented defined roles to maintain focus and unity. The Council of 12 was established as the governing body, comprising wise Jedi Masters and representatives from the growing Ossus community. This council balanced spiritual leadership with practical governance, ensuring the Order's harmony with the wider society. Training methods were also refined. Young initiates, or Padawans, were paired with experienced Jedi Knights or Masters who served as mentors. This one-on-one relationship nurtured both skill and character. A significant rite of passage was the construction of a lightsaber, a task requiring precision, patience, and a deep connection to the Force. These elegant weapons, perfected through advances in crystal technology, became symbols of the Jedi's commitment to peace and justice. The arrival of refugees from distant worlds presented one of the earliest challenges to the fledgling Order. Tales of the Jedi's wisdom and compassion had spread, drawing beings from across the galaxy, seeking sanctuary and guidance. The Jedi welcomed these newcomers, valuing their diverse perspectives as a source of strength. However, the influx tested the Order's ability to mediate cultural differences and maintain harmony within their growing community. Through these trials, the Jedi began to define their broader purpose. Emissaries were sent to nearby star systems to offer aid and seek knowledge, establishing the Jedi's reputation as mediators and peacekeepers. These early missions cemented the Order's identity as protectors of the galaxy, guided by the principles of their code and the lessons of their past. As the first generation of Jedi Masters passed into the Force, the Order had firmly established its foundations. Ossus, with its tranquil valleys and sacred temples, became a beacon of hope and wisdom. The Jedi Code provided a moral compass, while the scars of Tython served as a reminder of the dangers of imbalance. The Jedi's beginnings were not just about building temples or writing doctrines. They were about forging bonds through shared struggle, learning through introspection, and committing unwaveringly to the greater good. From these humble origins, the Jedi Order would rise to become one of the galaxy's most enduring and influential institutions, its ideals resonating across generations. The emergence of the Jedi Order as Galactic Peacekeepers was not born of ambition, but necessity. Having left the turbulent energy of Tython behind, the Jedi settled on Ossus, where their philosophy and purpose matured. Ossus offered tranquility, allowing the Order to focus on a question that would define their legacy: how to serve the galaxy without being consumed by its chaos. The galaxy of this era was no less chaotic than Tython had been. The Republic was a fledgling alliance of systems, bound together by fragile trade agreements and mutual defense pacts. Hyperspace exploration had brought distant worlds into contact, but disputes over resources and sovereignty were frequent, threatening the fragile peace. Into this growing storm, the Jedi stepped, not as conquerors or rulers, but as mediators and guardians. Their first test as peacekeepers came with a conflict that nearly escalated to open war. Iridonia, rich in resources, and its neighbor Ord Mantell, barren and desperate, clashed over access to vital trade routes. Fearing the destabilization of the region, the Republic called upon the Jedi to intervene. Though reluctant, the Jedi accepted the challenge, sending Master Kasha Vray, a figure known for her profound empathy, and her Padawan Tal Vos, a sharp strategist with a bold streak. From the outset, the Jedi were met with suspicion. Iridonia's leaders viewed them as agents of the Republic, while Ord Mantell feared favoritism toward their more powerful rival. Kasha's force-enhanced perception allowed her to uncover the fears and ambitions driving both sides, while Tal's diplomatic finesse identified avenues for compromise. After weeks of delicate negotiation, the Jedi brokered an agreement. Iridonia would share resources in exchange for exclusive trade privileges, overseen by the Republic. It was an imperfect solution, but it prevented war and proved the Jedi's value as impartial mediators. This success transformed the Jedi's role in the galaxy. Requests for their intervention multiplied, from mediating disputes to defending vulnerable populations. Recognizing their potential, the Republic formalized their position as peacekeepers. But this new responsibility came with challenges. Could the Jedi maintain their spiritual discipline while wielding temporal influence? The Jedi Council took steps to safeguard their principles. They forbade political positions or attachments that might compromise their objectivity, emphasizing their role as guardians of peace rather than enforcers of policy. Still, the ideal was easier stated than practiced. One such challenge unfolded on Dantooine, where the warlord Krathos Dan enslaved local farmers to build his private army. The Republic, stretched thin, turned to the Jedi for help. Master Oren Fel led a team to liberate the oppressed. The mission succeeded, but not without cost. Several Jedi fell, and the survivors questioned whether their intervention could have been less destructive. This spurred the Council to prioritize diplomacy and conflict prevention, focusing on resolution over combat. As the Jedi's reach expanded, so did their philosophy. They became stewards of the Republic's ideals, offering hope to worlds plagued by corruption or lawlessness. Yet their reliance on the Force and adherence to their code often set them apart, creating a divide between the Jedi and the people they served. This divide was particularly evident in the Rimwood colonies, where local leaders distrusted the Jedi's intentions. Master Tal Yara, known for her adaptability, was sent to ease tensions. She chose to live among the colonists, learning their ways and respecting their traditions. Her efforts bridged the gap, setting an example for future missions. By the time the Jedi were firmly established as peacekeepers, their order had grown in influence and numbers. Temples arose across the galaxy, each serving as a beacon of hope. But with growth came new questions: how to preserve unity, resist the pull of power, and uphold their ideals in an ever-changing galaxy. The Jedi's transformation was complete, yet it left them vulnerable to the very challenges they sought to avoid. Their new role required constant vigilance, not just against external threats, but against the erosion of their own principles. As they walked the fine line between guardianship and authority, the seeds of future conflicts were sown, waiting to test the Order in ways they could not yet foresee. As the Jedi Order grew into its role as the Republic's peacekeepers, the need for centralized leadership became apparent. Mediating galactic disputes and confronting rising threats demanded more than individual heroics. It required structure, unity, and guidance. The formation of the Jedi Council was a transformative moment, shaping the Order's identity and establishing it as both a spiritual beacon and a pragmatic force for galactic harmony. The creation of the Council was not a single event, but a gradual evolution, born of necessity and tempered by debate. In the early days on Ossus, Jedi leaders gathered in informal assemblies, known as the Convocations of Unity, to discuss their expanding responsibilities. These gatherings, held in the atrium of the Ossus Temple, were marked by passionate debates, lit by the ethereal glow of kyber crystals embedded in the walls. The challenges these leaders faced were daunting. Some argued that aligning with the Republic risked compromising the Jedi's spiritual mission, while others believed that turning away from the galaxy's needs was a failure of their duty. Amid these discussions, a unifying principle emerged: balance. The Council's role would be to ensure the Jedi remained true to the Force while navigating their responsibilities to the Republic. Approximately 4,000 years before the Battle of Yavin, the Jedi Council took its first formal shape. Comprised of 12 members, it embodied the Order's ideals of diversity and collective wisdom. Membership was earned through achievement, reflection, and a connection to the Force. The rigorous selection process emphasized unity, ensuring that personal ambitions did not outweigh the greater good. The council chamber itself symbolized these values. Circular and located atop the highest spire of the Ossus Temple, it featured an unbroken ring of identical seats. This design reinforced the principle of equality among members and emphasized that authority stemmed not from individuals, but from their shared connection to the Force. The Council's responsibilities were vast. They assigned missions, mediated disputes within the Order, and guided the Republic on matters of morality and strategy. Training standards were also formalized during this period. Building on traditions from Tython, The Council introduced structured trials and mentorship systems for Padawans, balancing individuality with a unified approach to Jedi education. Early in its history, the Council faced one of its first great crises, the emergence of rogue Jedi succumbing to the dark side. Known as Fallen, these individuals posed a unique challenge. The case of Norrin Thal, a Jedi-turned-warlord, epitomized this struggle. Thal had used the Force to dominate leaders on the Outer Rim, creating a personal empire. The Council tasked Master Ken Darris, a founding member, with addressing the situation. On Ord Zatha, Darris confronted Thal not with violence, but with the Force's power to reveal truth. By exposing Thal's inner torment and guilt, Darris compelled him to surrender. Thal was brought back to Ossus for rehabilitation, and after years of penance, he was allowed to rejoin the Order. This decision, though controversial, became a cornerstone of Jedi philosophy. Redemption is always possible. As the Jedi Council solidified its role, the galaxy's complexities demanded further adaptation. Sub-councils were established to oversee training, exploration, and diplomacy, allowing the main council to focus on broader strategies. This decentralization ensured that the Order remained agile and responsive, while preserving its spiritual foundation. Despite its successes, the Council faced ongoing challenges. The increasing entanglement of galactic politics tested their neutrality, and internal dissent occasionally threatened their unity. Yet through it all, the Council endured, striving to uphold the ideals of wisdom, balance, and service that defined the Jedi Order. The Jedi Order's purpose extended far beyond mediation or combat. At its core, the Jedi sought to discover not just the mysteries of the Force, but the vast expanse of the galaxy itself. In a time when hyperspace lanes were scarce and galactic maps incomplete, the Jedi became explorers, venturing into the uncharted to illuminate the unknown and establish connections with distant civilizations. Exploration was not a mere curiosity, it was a necessity. The fledgling Republic, still finding its footing, relied on the Jedi to chart new territories, forge alliances, and identify threats. This mission was entrusted to a unique group of Jedi known as the Pathfinders. Combining the diplomatic finesse of the Consulars with the combat expertise of the Guardians, the Pathfinders were adventurers at heart, guided by an unwavering connection to the Force. Pathfinder vessels were technological marvels, equipped with cutting-edge astrogation systems and durable enough to withstand the perils of the unknown. These ships served as mobile command centers, housing laboratories, environmental analysis tools, and xenobiology equipment. Each carried a holocron imbued with centuries of wisdom, offering guidance and insight to the Jedi on their voyages. Among the Pathfinder's most celebrated missions was the discovery of Ilum, a planet destined to become a sacred site for the Jedi. The journey began with a shared vision among Jedi Masters, a crystalline world radiating with the Force, its surface gleaming like a beacon. Following this vision, the Pathfinders set out into uncharted space, relying on both science and intuition to guide their way. The expedition to Ilum was fraught with danger. Navigating uncharted hyperspace routes, the Jedi encountered gravitational anomalies, pirate ambushes, and hostile species. Despite these challenges, the Pathfinders pressed forward, their resilience strengthened by the Force. Finally, their perseverance was rewarded when they reached Ilum, greeted by an awe-inspiring sight. Beneath Ilum's frozen surface lay vast caverns brimming with kyber crystals. These crystals were more than beautiful. They were alive in a way that defied explanation, resonating with the Force and calling out to individual Jedi. This discovery transformed the Jedi Order. Kyber crystals became the heart of lightsabers, and Elam itself became a place of pilgrimage, central to the rite of passage known as the Gathering. Elam's discovery fueled further expeditions into uncharted regions. Yet, with discovery came danger. In the depths of unknown space, the Pathfinders encountered the Rakata, architects of the infinite empire. Though the Rakata's dominion was waning, their legacy of cruelty and dark side technology presented a grave threat. The Jedi, faced with the temptation of Rakatan advancements, chose to reject them, reaffirming their commitment to the light. Through their explorations, the Jedi encountered civilizations with unique connections to the Force. On Kashyyyk, they found the Wookiees, whose deep spiritual bond with nature resonated with Jedi teachings. On Mustafar, they uncovered ancient ruins, hinting at forgotten Force traditions. Each discovery enriched their understanding of the galaxy and deepened their resolve to protect it. The Jedi's explorations were acts of unity, weaving distant worlds into the fabric of a shared galaxy. Though often overshadowed by their battles and diplomacy, this mission of discovery laid the foundation for the Order's enduring legacy. Power, in its rawest form, is both a gift and a burden. For the Jedi, mastery of the Force came with an ever-present danger: the seductive allure of power and the potential to wield it for personal or destructive purposes. This constant tension between the light and dark sides of the Force has shaped the Jedi's philosophy and trials throughout their history. The roots of this struggle reach back to Tython, where the Jedi first explored the duality of the Force. Their attempts to balance Ashla and Bogan revealed the dark side's intoxicating pull. While the light side offered connection and harmony, the dark side thrived on emotion, anger, fear, and ambition, and promised immediate results. For those who sought power without patience, the dark side became a dangerous temptation. The Jedi carried these lessons with them as they left Tython to establish their order. They understood that the Force's gifts could be corrupted, turning tools of peace into weapons of domination. But the dark side's appeal wasn't rooted in malevolence alone. It often presented itself as a solution to noble problems. Those who fell believed they could wield this power responsibly, justifying their actions by their intentions. This mindset gave rise to the Dark Jedi, individuals who sought to harness the dark side under the pretense of serving justice or protecting the weak. These rogue Jedi argued that the ends justified the means, claiming the Force's full spectrum was necessary to achieve their goals. Their defiance led to the first great schism within the Jedi Order, culminating in the Force Wars. The Force Wars were not merely conflicts of power, but battles of ideology. The Jedi, committed to the light, fought to preserve their philosophy against the rising tide of dark Jedi. The galaxy bore the scars of their battles, both physical and spiritual. Entire worlds were devastated, and the rift within the Order left a legacy of caution and fear regarding the dark side. Among the most infamous figures of this era was Zendor, a Jedi Master whose descent into darkness began with noble intentions. Zendor believed that using the Force's full spectrum would allow him to create a more just galaxy. However, as he delved deeper into the dark side, he became consumed by its power. His followers, the legions of Leto, wreaked havoc across the galaxy, cementing Zendor's name as a warning to future generations. In the aftermath of the Force Wars, the Jedi developed strict codes to safeguard against future temptations. They discouraged personal attachments, recognizing that fear of loss could lead to anger and despair. Meditation became central to Jedi life, serving as a tool to maintain balance and clarity. Despite these measures, the dark side's pull never truly diminished. Throughout history, even the most virtuous Jedi faced moments of temptation. Figures like Revan embodied this struggle. A brilliant and compassionate knight, Revan defied the Jedi Council during the Mandalorian Wars, believing their neutrality was a moral failure. While his intentions were noble, the horrors of war and the influence of a Sith artifact gradually led him to embrace the dark side. Revan's fall and eventual redemption became one of the most poignant lessons in Jedi history, highlighting the fine line between conviction and corruption. The dark side's allure was never just about power. It was about the promise of control. For Jedi grappling with internal or external chaos, the temptation to impose order through force could be overwhelming. Yet the Jedi Order's strength lay not in suppressing these temptations, but in acknowledging them. This struggle underscored the essence of the Jedi philosophy. True mastery of the Force required humility, self-awareness, and compassion. The Jedi's greatest triumph was not in wielding power, but in resisting its misuse. Their principles, forged through millennia of trials, stood as a testament to their dedication to the light, even in the face of the galaxy's darkest temptations. If the Jedi were the guardians of light and balance, the Sith were their ultimate antithesis, a shadow cast by the Jedi's very existence. The Sith Order did not emerge as a random dark entity, but as a deliberate response to the Jedi's philosophy, a counterweight to their ideals. To understand the Sith is to understand the dangers of unbridled ambition and the seductive allure of power without restraint. The roots of the Sith began with the Dark Jedi exiles, remnants of the Force Wars, who refused to submit to the Jedi Council's authority or philosophy. After their defeat, these exiles were cast out, left to wander the galaxy as pariahs. They eventually found themselves on a remote, primitive world, Korriban. Here they encountered a species known as the Sith, Force-sensitive beings with a culture steeped in mysticism, ambition, and ritual. The exiled Dark Jedi quickly realized they could dominate the Sith, but instead of merely subjugating them, they intermingled their teachings. The Dark Jedi brought their knowledge of the Force, while the Sith offered their deeply rooted traditions of power and hierarchy. The result was a fusion of ideology and practice that birthed the Sith Order as we know it, a marriage of Force mastery and ruthless ambition. Korriban itself became a crucible for this new order. A planet of barren deserts and jagged tombs, it was steeped in a natural dark side energy that amplified the Sith's powers. Here the exiles constructed massive temples and tombs, monuments to their power and the Force's dark currents. It was on Korriban that the Sith Order formalized its philosophy, one that celebrated individuality, strength, and dominance over weakness. Central to the Sith's ethos was the rule of the strong. Power was not just a tool for survival, it was a virtue in itself. Where the Jedi sought harmony and balance, the Sith believed in conflict as a means of evolution. Struggle, they argued, was the crucible through which true strength was forged. This philosophy was codified in the Sith Code, a stark counterpoint to the Jedi Code. Peace is a lie. There is only passion. Through passion, I gain strength. Through strength, I gain power. Through power, I gain victory. Through victory, my chains are broken. The Force shall free me. At first glance, the Sith Code seems to celebrate chaos, but it is, in fact, a structured creed. It rejects the idea of selflessness and embraces personal empowerment. For the Sith, passion is not something to be suppressed, but harnessed. Emotions like anger, fear, and ambition are seen as pathways to strength, rather than dangers to be avoided. However, this focus on personal power led to inevitable conflict within the Sith ranks. Sith Lords, by their very nature, were ambitious and distrustful, and alliances between them were fragile at best. Infighting became a hallmark of their history, with apprentices betraying their masters to ascend to greater power. This cycle of betrayal and conquest became both a strength and a weakness. While it ensured that only the strongest would rise, it also prevented the Sith from maintaining lasting unity. Despite their internal strife, the Sith's collective ambition often turned outward, targeting the Jedi and the Republic. One of the earliest and most devastating conflicts was the Great Hyperspace War, a galaxy-spanning battle initiated by Naga Sadow, a Sith Lord whose dreams of empire brought chaos to countless worlds. Though the Jedi and the Republic eventually triumphed, the Sith proved that they were a force to be reckoned with, one capable of challenging the galaxy's greatest powers. The Sith's greatest reformation came under Darth Bane, a visionary who recognized that the Order's infighting was its greatest vulnerability. Bane instituted the rule of two. There would only ever be two Sith at a time, a master and an apprentice. The master embodied power and knowledge, while the apprentice represented ambition and potential. When the apprentice grew strong enough to challenge the master, they would do so, ensuring that the Sith legacy continually evolved. This rule created a streamlined, clandestine Sith order that operated in the shadows, influencing galactic events with calculated precision. The Sith's shadow loomed over the Jedi for millennia, shaping the Order's philosophy and tactics. While the Jedi sought to defend peace and maintain balance, the Sith exploited conflict and imbalance to further their goals. They thrived in chaos, using it as a ladder to ascend to ever greater heights of power. The rise of the Sith is not merely a cautionary tale about the dangers of unchecked ambition. It is a mirror held up to the Jedi. The Sith are a reminder of what happens when power is sought for its own sake, divorced from responsibility or compassion. They are the galaxy's greatest tragedy and its greatest threat, a testament to the Force's dual nature and the eternal struggle between light and dark. The war between the Jedi and the Sith transcended physical battles. It was a clash of ideologies, a struggle for the soul of the galaxy. The Jedi viewed the Force as a path to harmony and selflessness, while the Sith wielded it as a means of domination and personal empowerment. This fundamental opposition ignited a conflict that spanned millennia, shaping galactic history at every turn. The Great Hyperspace War marked the first major confrontation between these orders. Naga Sadow, a Sith Lord of boundless ambition, sought to expand Sith dominion beyond Korriban, launching an invasion into Republic space. The Jedi and Republic forces ultimately repelled his onslaught, but the cost was staggering. Entire systems were devastated, and the Jedi realized their role as peacekeepers often required them to become warriors. This duality of roles became central to the Jedi's identity as the conflict with the Sith persisted. The Sith Wars, stretching across centuries, introduced the galaxy to figures like Exar Kun and Darth Revan, once Jedi, now harbingers of destruction. Their betrayals underscored a chilling reality. The Sith's greatest strength was their ability to corrupt the Jedi from within. Each war forced the Jedi Order to reflect, adapt, and reaffirm their commitment to the light side. Perhaps no event illustrated this more starkly than the Jedi Civil War. Darth Revan and his apprentice Darth Malak returned from the Mandalorian Wars not as heroes, but as conquerors. They weaponized their understanding of the Jedi teachings against the Republic, plunging the galaxy into chaos. Though the Jedi eventually triumphed, the cost was immense: a shattered order, a mistrustful Republic, and a lingering sense of fragility. For the Sith, these wars often resulted in self-destruction. Internal rivalries and unchecked ambition frequently led to their downfall. In response, Darth Bane introduced the rule of two, mandating that only two Sith, master and apprentice, could exist at a time. This ensured the survival of their philosophy while allowing them to operate covertly, manipulating galactic events from the shadows. This cunning strategy reached its zenith with Darth Sidious, who infiltrated the Republic and orchestrated its fall. As Emperor Palpatine, Sidious executed Order 66, decimating the Jedi Order and establishing the Galactic Empire. His triumph demonstrated the Sith's ability to exploit the Jedi's greatest strength, their commitment to the Republic, and turn it into their greatest vulnerability. Even in defeat, the Jedi endured. Scattered survivors like Obi-Wan Kenobi and Yoda went into hiding, preserving the teachings of the Order. Their resilience set the stage for the rise of Luke Skywalker, whose journey symbolized the Jedi's renewal. Luke's confrontation with Darth Vader and Emperor Palpatine was not merely a fight, but the culmination of centuries of ideological struggle. Luke's victory was rooted in compassion. Recognizing the remnants of good within Vader, he rejected the Sith philosophy of domination and proved that redemption was possible. This act of understanding and faith underscored the Jedi's ultimate belief in the light side's power to heal and transform. The eternal conflict between the Jedi and the Sith is more than a war. It is a reflection of the galaxy's inner struggles. It embodies the tension between selflessness and ambition, harmony and chaos. Every Jedi victory sparks a Sith resurgence, and every Sith scheme drives the Jedi to evolve. This cycle mirrors the nature of the Force itself, a balance that requires constant vigilance and renewal. As the galaxy looks to the future, the lessons of this conflict remain profound. The Jedi and Sith are more than orders. They are symbols of the choices all beings face. Their enduring struggle reminds us that the Force, in all its complexity, is as much about the fight for balance within as it is about the battles among the stars. The Jedi Order's alignment with the Galactic Republic was a defining chapter in its history, a partnership that elevated the Jedi to galactic prominence, while entangling them in the complexities of politics and power. From the earliest days of the Republic, the Jedi served as peacekeepers and protectors, their abilities indispensable to maintaining order in an increasingly interconnected galaxy. Yet this alliance came with profound challenges, testing the Jedi's principles and reshaping their legacy. The Republic, founded on ideals of democracy and unity, was a bold experiment in governance. Its Senate, a vast assembly representing countless systems and species, sought to balance the needs of a diverse galaxy. However, the scale of the Republic brought inevitable flaws: corruption, inefficiency, and bureaucratic gridlock. It was in addressing these weaknesses that the Jedi found their purpose. During the Republic's formative unification wars, the Jedi played a pivotal role, using their powers to mediate disputes and defend the vulnerable. Their actions helped stabilize the fledgling government, earning them a revered position as symbols of justice and integrity. This partnership solidified the Jedi's place within the Republic, positioning them as guardians of its highest ideals. However, the Jedi's dual allegiance, to the Force and to the Republic, was fraught with tension. While the Jedi viewed themselves as servants of the Force, bound to its will, the Republic operated through laws, policies, and compromises. Navigating these differing loyalties required constant vigilance and often led to difficult decisions. At their height, the Jedi were not only defenders, but also advisors, their council frequently consulted by the Supreme Chancellor on matters of galactic importance. This integration brought influence, but also entanglement. The Jedi's deep involvement in the Republic's political machinery blurred the lines between impartial service and complicity, especially when the Republic faltered or faced public discontent. The Clone Wars magnified these challenges. Sworn to peace, the Jedi became generals in a galaxy-wide conflict they neither initiated nor fully comprehended. commanding the Republic's clone army demonstrated their strategic brilliance, but came at a moral cost. Many within the Order grappled with the ethics of leading soldiers bred solely for war, and the relentless fighting began to erode the Jedi's core principles. Palpatine, the Sith Lord hidden in plain sight as Supreme Chancellor, exploited this vulnerability masterfully. Using the Jedi's loyalty to the Republic against them, he painted them as both indispensable and threatening. His manipulation ensured that when the time came to execute Order 66, the Jedi were isolated, their credibility diminished, and their ranks vulnerable to betrayal. Yet the Jedi's legacy as guardians of the Republic was not defined solely by failure. Over centuries they brokered peace treaties, resolved interstellar disputes, and acted as mediators in conflicts that threatened entire civilizations. Their impartiality, guided by the Force, allowed them to approach problems with fairness and wisdom. They became a beacon of hope for countless beings, embodying the ideal of selfless service. However, this impartiality also alienated many. By eschewing personal attachments and emotional entanglements, the Jedi sought to act without bias. While noble in intent, this detachment often made them appear distant, even unrelatable, to the very people they sought to protect. Critics viewed their neutrality as cold indifference, creating an enduring tension between the Order and the galaxy it served. The fall of the Jedi during the rise of the Empire was not a sudden collapse, but the culmination of centuries of choices, some wise, others flawed. Their deep entanglement with the Republic, while enabling their greatest achievements, also facilitated their downfall. Yet, their enduring principles of justice, compassion, and service continued to inspire even in the darkest times. As the galaxy sought to rebuild in the wake of the Empire, the lessons of the Jedi's successes and failures resonated with those who sought to uphold their legacy. The Jedi Order's role as guardians of the Republic remains a profound chapter in galactic history, a testament to the complexities of power, loyalty, and the enduring struggle to balance service with principle. The Mandalorian Wars were a crucible of fire and blood, reshaping the galaxy and profoundly testing the Republic and the Jedi Order. This conflict was not just a battle of weapons, but of ideologies, a clash between the unyielding creed of the Mandalorians, the fragile unity of the Republic, and the deeply held principles of the Jedi. The Mandalorians, a warrior culture defined by valor, conquest, and martial prowess, saw war as their ultimate purpose. Expansion was not just a strategy, but a calling, one that led them to set their sights on the Republic. Their brutal invasions of the Outer Rim were swift and devastating, marked by tactical genius and relentless ferocity. Entire systems fell, leaving the Republic exposed and scrambling for a response. For the Jedi, the Mandalorian onslaught presented a profound dilemma. Traditionally, the Order adhered to a policy of non-intervention in military conflicts, maintaining their role as mediators and defenders rather than aggressors. The Jedi High Council, wary of the risks of attachment and the potential corruption of power, chose to remain neutral. They believed their allegiance was to the Force itself, not to the political machinations of the Republic. This decision, however, was not universally accepted. A faction of Jedi, led by the charismatic Revan and his close ally Malak, argued that inaction in the face of Mandalorian aggression was a moral failing. They saw the unchecked advance of the Mandalorians as a direct threat to galactic stability and the Force's balance. As Republic forces suffered devastating defeats, this dissent grew louder, culminating in a schism within the Order. Revan's defiance became a pivotal moment. Rallying a group of like-minded Jedi known as the Revanchists, he openly defied the Council's edicts and joined the Republic's war effort. Under Revan's leadership, the tide began to turn. His tactical brilliance and mastery of the Force secured critical victories, earning him a reputation as a hero. The Republic's morale soared as the Mandalorians found themselves facing a formidable and unconventional foe. However, victory came at a great cost. The revanchists, exposed to the horrors of war, began to adopt the ruthless tactics of their enemies. The lines between light and dark blurred as they wielded the Force with increasing aggression. Revan himself grew into a figure of contradictions, a savior to the Republic, but one increasingly detached from the Jedi ideals he once upheld. The war reached its harrowing climax at the Battle of Malachor V. Seeking to end the conflict decisively, Revan deployed the mass shadow generator, a superweapon capable of destroying entire fleets. The results were catastrophic. The Mandalorian forces were annihilated, but so too were countless Republic soldiers and civilians. Malachor V became a desolate wasteland, its surface scarred as a haunting reminder of the war's cost. Though the Mandalorian Wars ended with Revan's victory, they marked the beginning of a darker chapter. Revan and Malak, hardened by their experiences and drawn to the temptations of power, disappeared into the unknown regions, only to re-emerge as Sith Lords bent on conquest. The seeds of future conflicts were sown amidst the ashes of this war. The aftermath left the Jedi Order fractured and introspective. The Council, vindicated in its caution, struggled to reconcile the lessons of the war and the actions of the revanchists. The Republic, though victorious, bore the weight of immense loss and the harbinger of more conflicts to come. The Mandalorians, now defeated, began a period of cultural introspection and adaptation. The Mandalorian Wars were more than a clash of armies. They were a philosophical battle. The Mandalorians fought for honor, the Republic for survival, and the Jedi for principles that were tested and, in some cases, broken. The legacy of this war endures as a cautionary tale about the complexities of power, the perils of zealotry, and the ever-present challenge of balancing ideals with action. The galaxy, reeling from the Mandalorian Wars, found itself unprepared for the shadow that loomed on the horizon. As the Republic labored to rebuild and the Jedi sought solace in reflection, the Sith Empire, thought to be a relic of the past, surged from obscurity. This was not a simple resurgence. It was a meticulously orchestrated campaign born of hatred, ambition, and centuries of preparation. After their supposed extinction during the Great Hyperspace War, the Sith were believed to be eradicated, but this assumption proved dangerously naive. Fleeing into the unknown regions, the remnants of the Sith retreated, their hatred festering as they rebuilt their forces in secrecy. Under the leadership of a being shrouded in legend, the Sith Emperor, they constructed a new empire fueled by vengeance and the dark side. The Sith Emperor was no ordinary ruler. He was a being of immense power and mystery, rumored to have achieved immortality through the darkest of Force rituals. His vision extended far beyond the survival of his empire. He sought domination over the galaxy itself. To achieve this, he needed more than an army. He needed agents of chaos to soften the Republic for his return. The seeds of the Sith Empire's resurgence were sown during the Mandalorian Wars. Revan and Malak, Jedi heroes turned war leaders, ventured into the unknown regions following the conflict, seeking the remnants of an ancient Sith threat. There they encountered the Emperor. Whether by manipulation, coercion, or the dark side's irresistible pull, they succumbed to his influence, returning to the galaxy not as saviors, but as Sith Lords. They brought with them a powerful fleet and a ruthless vision for galactic conquest. The Sith Empire's initial strikes were swift and devastating. Weakened by years of war, the Republic was ill-equipped to counter this renewed threat. The Sith targeted critical systems, spreading fear and chaos across the galaxy. Their tactics were precise, their assaults merciless, and their impact immediate. For the Republic, it was a waking nightmare. For the Jedi, it was a grim reminder of the dark side's enduring threat. The Jedi Order faced a multifaceted challenge. The Sith were not just adversaries. They were fallen brethren who knew the Jedi's philosophies, tactics, and weaknesses. This familiarity made their betrayal all the more painful, and their attacks devastatingly effective. The Jedi found themselves battling not just the Sith's forces, but also the psychological toll of facing their own corrupted kin. Central to the Sith Empire's dominance was the Emperor's mastery of the Force. His power was beyond comprehension, enabling him to orchestrate rituals that drained entire worlds of life. These dark acts fed his empire and extended his influence, creating a stark contrast to the Jedi's teachings of balance and preservation. The galaxy itself seemed to tremble under his control, a chilling testament to the dark side's destructive potential. Amid the chaos, individual Sith Lords rose to infamy, each embodying a facet of the dark side's destructive allure. Darth Nihilus, the Lord of Hunger, epitomized this power. Consumed by the Force, Nihilus wielded it with devastating effect, draining the life energy of entire planets and leaving them desolate. His existence was both a weapon and a curse, symbolizing the Sith's insatiable nature. Despite the overwhelming threat, the Republic and Jedi rallied. A coalition of forces launched counterattacks, reclaiming key systems and disrupting the Sith's momentum. Jedi leaders like Bastila Shan employed advanced techniques, including battle meditation, to turn the tide of battle. These victories were hard-won, each one serving as a testament to the Republic's resilience and the Jedi's enduring commitment to the light. Yet the Sith's internal rivalries also proved to be their undoing. While the Emperor's influence was absolute, his lords vied for power in a web of intrigue and betrayal. These conflicts created cracks in the Sith hierarchy, vulnerabilities that the Republic and Jedi exploited. The rise of the Sith Empire was more than the return of an ancient foe. It was a reckoning, a stark reminder of the fragility of peace and the constant threat posed by unchecked ambition. As the war raged on, it became clear that the galaxy's struggle was not just for territory, but for its very soul. The Sith's shadow loomed over the galaxy, promising that this conflict would echo through generations to come. The galaxy's recovery from the Sith resurgence was still tenuous when another storm erupted, a conflict that would test the Republic, the Jedi Order, and the very fabric of the Force. The Jedi Civil War was not just a clash of armies. It was an ideological crucible, one that redefined the Jedi and left scars that would endure for generations. At its heart were Revan and Malak, heroes of the Mandalorian Wars, who had become symbols of defiance and victory. Yet, their return from the unknown regions revealed a chilling transformation. They no longer fought for the Republic or the ideals they had once championed. Instead, they had embraced the dark side, declaring themselves Sith Lords. Revan, now masked and enigmatic, became a symbol of power and order, while Malak, consumed by ambition, took his place as a loyal yet volatile second-in-command. Revan's campaign was a masterclass in strategy and manipulation. He did not merely seek to conquer, he sought to convert. Jedi Knights, Republic soldiers, and civilians alike were drawn to his cause by his vision of a galaxy unified under decisive leadership. His rhetoric exploited the Republic's weaknesses, its bureaucratic stagnation, and inability to address galactic threats. For many, Revan's promises of order and strength were seductive, especially in the wake of the Mandalorian Wars. This ideological rift struck at the heart of the Jedi Order. Many knights sympathized with Revan's critique of the Council's inaction during the Mandalorian Wars, believing the Jedi had failed their moral duty to protect the galaxy. These fractures within the Order deepened as some Jedi defected to Revan's side, convinced that his path, though extreme, was necessary. For those who remained loyal to the light, Revan's actions were a profound betrayal, an affront to the very principles the Jedi stood for. The Republic, caught in this internal struggle, found itself on the brink of collapse. Revan's forces, bolstered by ancient Sith technologies and augmented fleets, struck with surgical precision. Strategic planets fell, hyperspace lanes were cut off, and entire systems defected. Malak's ruthlessness amplified the Sith's dominance, spreading fear across the galaxy and ensuring compliance through sheer terror. Within the Jedi Order, the Council grappled with its response. Revan's defection and the growing dissent within their ranks forced the Jedi to question their own doctrines. Some advocated for stricter adherence to tradition, while others pushed for reform, believing that the Order's rigidity had driven many to the dark side. This internal discord mirrored the galaxy's chaos, leaving the Jedi vulnerable to manipulation and fragmentation. The tide began to turn with a betrayal from within. Malak, driven by his own ambitions, attacked Revan's flagship during a key battle, hoping to eliminate his master and claim leadership of the Sith. The gambit succeeded, leaving Revan critically injured and in the custody of the Jedi. Yet, rather than execute or imprison him, the Council made a radical choice. They erased Revan's memories, rebuilding him as a Jedi Knight, in the hope that he could redeem himself and aid the Republic. This decision set the stage for the war's conclusion. Revan, unaware of his past, embarked on a journey to dismantle the Sith threat, accompanied by a diverse group of allies. As he confronted remnants of his former empire, fragments of his identity resurfaced. He wrestled with the weight of his past actions, ultimately rejecting the Sith philosophy and reclaiming his connection to the light. The climax came aboard the Starforge, an ancient construct of immense power that fueled the Sith's war machine. Revan confronted Malak in a final, devastating duel, overcoming his former apprentice and dismantling the Sith's operations. Malak's defeat marked the end of the Jedi Civil War, but the galaxy was left fractured and weary. In the aftermath, the Jedi Order and the Republic faced hard truths. The Order, shaken by defections and internal strife, entered a period of intense self-examination. The Republic, though victorious, was left weakened, its systems struggling to recover from years of war. Revan, the catalyst for the conflict, disappeared into the unknown regions, seeking answers to questions that even the Force seemed reluctant to reveal. The Jedi Civil War was more than a clash of armies. It was a confrontation of ideals. It blurred the lines between hero and villain, light and dark, and loyalty and betrayal. Its legacy would shape the galaxy for centuries, a reminder of the fragile balance between power, conviction, and the Force itself. The Starforge was unlike anything the galaxy had ever seen, a construct of monumental power and profound mystery. Suspended in the void of space, it was not merely a machine, but a relic of an ancient, dark civilization. The Rakata, a species known for their mastery of the Force and technological ingenuity, had built this monstrosity during their reign over the galaxy. Yet, as much as it was a testament to their dominance, it was also a harbinger of their downfall. To understand the Starforge is to understand the Rakata's paradox. Their infinite empire, fueled by the Force itself, had thrived on conquest, subjugation, and technological marvels. The Starforge, a massive automated factory, epitomized this ethos. It could churn out fleets of warships and armies of droids with terrifying efficiency, drawing energy directly from nearby stars. But it was not purely mechanical. The Rakata had infused it with the dark side of the Force, giving it a sentience that amplified their malevolence and fed on their greed and anger. When Revan discovered the Starforge, it became the linchpin of his campaign to reshape the galaxy. The factory's output was unparalleled, allowing him to assemble a Sith fleet so vast and powerful that it dwarfed anything the Republic could muster. Yet the Starforge was more than a tool. It was a test. Its very existence challenged the wielder's resolve, corrupting even the strongest minds with its ceaseless hunger for domination. Malak, ever ambitious and unrestrained, embraced the Starforge's influence fully after betraying Revan. Under his command, the construct became a weapon of unrelenting destruction. Planets were razed, entire fleets were obliterated, and the Republic teetered on the brink of collapse. Yet Malak's reliance on the Starforge also revealed his vulnerability. It was a crutch, amplifying his power, but anchoring him to a cycle of dependence and corruption. The final battle aboard the Starforge was as much a spiritual reckoning as a military conflict. Revan, having regained fragments of his memory and renounced the Sith path, led an assault on the construct. The Republic's battered fleet, bolstered by the courage of those who refused to yield, faced overwhelming odds. Yet they were driven by hope and the conviction that the galaxy's future hung in the balance. Inside the Starforge, Revan confronted Malak in a duel that was more than a clash of lightsabers. It was a confrontation between two visions of power: Malak's unyielding tyranny, forged in the fires of the dark side, and Revan's renewed commitment to balance and redemption. The battle was grueling, a storm of Force techniques and raw emotion, but in the end, Malak fell. The Starforge, deprived of its master and destabilized by the battle, began to collapse. Its destruction was a cataclysmic event, a release of energy so immense that it echoed across the galaxy. Yet its legacy endured, haunting those who had come into contact with it. The Republic, though victorious, bore the scars of its encounter with the Starforge. The knowledge that such a weapon had existed and could be recreated cast a long shadow over future conflicts. Engineers and scholars debated the ethics of studying the Starforge's remains, while politicians whispered about the potential to wield such power for the Republic's benefit. The Jedi Council, however, was unequivocal. The Starforge was an abomination, and its memory served only as a cautionary tale of the dangers of unchecked ambition. For the Jedi Order, the Starforge became a symbol of their vulnerability. Revan's fall and subsequent redemption highlighted the precarious balance they sought to maintain. The dark side was not merely an external enemy, but an ever-present temptation, a force that could corrupt even the brightest lights among them. In the centuries that followed, the Starforge would enter galactic legend, its story retold in countless forms. Some saw it as a warning, others as an opportunity squandered. Yet for those who had faced its shadow firsthand, it was a reminder of the cost of power and the price of redemption. As for Revan, the Starforge marked both an end and a beginning. Its destruction severed his ties to his Sith past, yet the questions it raised lingered. What had the Rakata truly intended? What lay beyond the unknown regions where they had once thrived? And could the galaxy ever be free of the allure of such power? Revan's quest for answers would lead him beyond the edge of known space, into the depths of the galaxy's forgotten history. But the shadow of the Starforge remained, a reminder that even the most brilliant lights could cast the darkest shadows. Revan's story stands apart in the histories of the Jedi and Sith, not as a tale of triumph or tragedy, but as a mosaic of contradictions. He was neither wholly hero nor villain, his life a journey through the light and dark sides of the Force, leaving an indelible mark on the galaxy. To understand his legacy is to grasp a figure who sought to save the galaxy, though his methods often defied morality and convention. Born with a natural affinity for the Force, Revan's early years as a Jedi were marked by brilliance and defiance. His hunger for knowledge and his willingness to challenge tradition made him both admired and controversial. Where others saw the Force in absolutes, Revan perceived it as a spectrum of possibilities. This unorthodox perspective would shape his destiny and set him apart from his peers. The Mandalorian Wars became the crucible for Revan's transformation. As the Mandalorian Neo-Crusaders ravaged the galaxy, the Jedi Council chose restraint, advocating non-intervention. Revan, unwilling to watch as innocents suffered, broke ranks. Rallying like-minded Jedi, he led the charge against the Mandalorians, turning the tide of war. His actions, however, carried unforeseen consequences. Exposure to the horrors of war and ancient Sith artifacts began to alter his perspective, sowing the seeds of his eventual fall. Revan's descent into the dark side was not a single act, but a gradual shift born of conviction. Concluding that the galaxy required a unified and controlled rule to prevent future chaos, he embraced the Sith's teachings. Alongside his apprentice Malak, he sought to impose order through dominance, wielding the Starforge to build an unstoppable war machine. Yet, even at his darkest, Revan's motivations were rooted in a perverse sense of duty. He envisioned himself as the galaxy's savior, willing to bear the weight of tyranny for what he believed was the greater good. The Republic's resistance culminated in Revan's capture during a daring mission led by Jedi forces. Rather than execute him, the Jedi Council chose an unprecedented course. They erased his memories, giving him the chance to rediscover the light. Revan's second life, shaped by the friendships and challenges he encountered, demonstrated the Force's capacity for redemption. Confronting Malak aboard the Starforge, Revan emerged victorious, rejecting both Sith and Jedi extremes to forge his own path. Revan's legacy endures not only in his deeds, but in the questions he left behind. His defiance forced the Jedi to re-evaluate their dogma, exposing the limitations of rigid adherence to the light side. To the Sith, Revan was a figure of power and purpose, a leader who tempered chaos with strategy. His duality reshaped both orders, influencing figures like Darth Bane, who redefined the Sith through the rule of two. Beyond his influence on galactic powers, Revan's journey embodied the Force's complexities. He walked both light and dark, demonstrating that the Force is not a binary construct, but a reflection of choice and balance. His life became a mirror for the galaxy, capturing its capacity for destruction and renewal, cruelty and compassion. After the destruction of the Starforge, Revan vanished into the unknown regions, pursuing fragmented memories of an ancient threat. His departure left the galaxy in uncertainty, as if the Force itself awaited his return. To the Jedi, Revan was a symbol of redemption and a challenge to their orthodoxy. To the Sith, he was a model of strength and ambition. To the galaxy's people, he was a legend whose story transcended labels and binaries. The Mandalorian Wars stand as one of the galaxy's most complex conflicts, defined by a culture both revered and feared. The Mandalorians, with their iconic armor, disciplined warriors, and unyielding resolve, were more than conquerors. They were a phenomenon. Yet their role in history defies simplicity. They were builders and destroyers, leaving a legacy that transformed not only themselves, but also the Republic and the Jedi Order. The Mandalorians' origins on the harsh world of Mandalore shaped a society that valued strength, discipline, and survival above all. Over time, Their culture evolved into a nomadic, warrior-based society, bound together by the spiritual concept of Manda, a unifying essence of purpose and existence. To them, life itself was a test, and glory could only be achieved through struggle and combat. This ethos drove them to expand, conquer, and challenge any force that stood in their way. By the time of the Mandalorian Wars, their society had transformed into the Neo-Crusaders, a militarized and highly organized faction. Under the leadership of Mandalore the Ultimate, they launched an unprecedented campaign, pushing deep into the galaxy's outer rim. The reasons for this war were as layered as their culture. Some sought honor, others resources, and Mandalore himself saw it as a necessary crucible for galactic evolution. Conflict, he believed, would determine the strong and shape the galaxy's future. The war began with brutal efficiency. Mandalorian forces targeted sparsely defended outer rim worlds, overwhelming local militias with their superior tactics and raw power. The Republic, still reeling from previous conflicts, adopted a defensive strategy, hesitating to fully mobilize its military. This restraint stemmed from the trauma of the Great Sith War, where aggression had led to devastating consequences. The Jedi Council too chose a path of inaction, insisting that the Jedi's role was to preserve peace, not escalate violence. This hesitation created a vacuum of leadership, and it was within this void that Revan emerged. A Jedi Knight of unparalleled charisma and strategic brilliance, Revan rejected the Council's passive stance. To him, the Mandalorian threat was not merely a military challenge, but a moral imperative. Gathering like-minded Jedi, Revan formed the Revanchists, a faction dedicated to defending the Republic, even at the cost of defying the Jedi Council's edicts. The Mandalorians, initially dismissive of the Jedi's restraint, soon came to respect Revan's audacity and tactical genius. Revan's strategies exploited the Mandalorians' reliance on direct confrontations, turning their aggression against them. Yet, even as Revan's forces gained ground, the Jedi who followed him found themselves changed by the war's brutality. The constant exposure to death and destruction, coupled with Revan's increasingly ruthless methods, began to blur the lines between light and dark. The siege of Malachor V was the war's tragic apex. Revan, desperate for a decisive victory, deployed the mass shadow generator, a superweapon that obliterated the Mandalorian fleet, but also devastated his own forces. The battle's carnage was unparalleled, leaving a desolate wasteland as a testament to the war's cost. Mandalore the Ultimate fell in combat to Revan, marking the end of the conflict, but not its consequences. The aftermath of the Mandalorian Wars was a period of reckoning. The Republic emerged victorious but weakened, its military and political systems strained to their limits. The Jedi Order faced profound introspection, divided over their role in the war and the actions of the Revanchists. For the Mandalorians, defeat marked the end of their unity. With their leader gone, they splintered into clans, their once proud society descending into chaos. Yet the Mandalorian spirit endured. Their culture, built on resilience and adaptation, continued to influence the galaxy. Even in defeat, they remained a symbol of strength and determination. For Revan and his followers, the war was a turning point, a crucible that tested their ideals and reshaped their understanding of power and morality. The Mandalorian Wars forged Revan into a hero, but the Starforge shaped him into something far more complex and ultimately far darker. This ancient relic of the Rakatan Infinite Empire was more than a technological marvel. It was a dark nexus of the Force, feeding on ambition and amplifying corruption. For Revan, the discovery of the Starforge marked the beginning of a path that blurred the lines between savior and oppressor. Revan's journey to the Star Forge began after the Mandalorian Wars, driven by a determination to protect the Republic from future threats. Guided by fragmented Rakatan lore, he and his loyal ally Malak ventured into the galaxy's unknown regions. They sought a weapon powerful enough to secure the galaxy's safety, a defense against the shadows Revan had glimpsed beyond the outer rim. What they found was astonishing, a massive construct in the orbit of a dying star. The Star Forge drew its energy from the star's lifeblood, converting it into material to create ships, weapons, and droids with an efficiency unmatched by anything in the galaxy. Yet, this was no ordinary factory. The forge was imbued with the dark side of the Force, feeding on the emotions and ambitions of those who wielded its power. The Rakata, the dark architects of the Star Forge, had designed it to consolidate their dominion over the galaxy. However, even they had found its power uncontrollable. The Forge amplified their greed and paranoia, driving their empire into chaos and collapse. It was left abandoned, a testament to the dangers of unchecked ambition, until Revan and Malak unearthed it. Initially, Revan saw the Forge as a tool, not an end. He envisioned using it to prepare the galaxy for an ominous threat he believed was on the horizon. But the Forge's dark influence was insidious. It magnified his belief that only he could protect the galaxy, and that his vision justified any means. What began as a mission of protection warped into a crusade for control. The Jedi Knight who had led the Republic to victory became Darth Revan, a Sith Lord wielding the Star Forge as the foundation of a new empire. Malak, once Revan's closest ally, was also drawn into the Forge's grip. Yet the Forge's influence heightened Malak's insecurities and ambitions, sowing discord between the two. As their reliance on the Forge grew, so did its toll. The Forge demanded not just resources, but a piece of the humanity of those who controlled it. For every fleet it produced, it left its creators more deeply entwined with its darkness. The Star Forge's production capabilities were unparalleled, and the Republic was unprepared for the onslaught it unleashed. Revan and Malak's fleets swept across the galaxy, plunging it into the Jedi Civil War. The Republic, still recovering from the Mandalorian Wars, struggled to withstand this new threat. To the galaxy, Revan's transformation seemed a betrayal of the ideals he had once fought to uphold. To his followers, it was the evolution of a leader who understood the cost of survival. But the Forge's power came at a price. It blurred Revan's clarity of purpose, turning his vision into tyranny. Even as he recognized the danger it posed, the Forge's utility was too great to abandon. It became both his greatest weapon and his undoing, an anchor dragging him deeper into the dark side. The Jedi Council, desperate to counter this existential threat, launched a daring mission led by Bastila Shan. They confronted Revan aboard his flagship. In a moment of betrayal, Malak saw an opportunity to usurp his master, attacking Revan and leaving him vulnerable. In the chaos, Revan was captured and stripped of his memories by the Jedi, while Malak seized control of the Sith Empire. Under Malak's rule, the Star Forge continued its relentless production, but without Revan's strategic brilliance, the Sith Empire began to falter. The Forge, once a symbol of invincibility, became a source of discord and overreach, ultimately sowing the seeds of its own destruction. The Star Forge is more than a story of corruption. It is a cautionary tale of power's peril. Revan's rise and fall underscore how even the noblest intentions can be twisted when power becomes an end rather than a means. The Forge remains a reminder that the dark side of the Force is not merely external. It is an internal struggle that must be faced by all who wield its power. The galaxy, still reeling from the scars of the Mandalorian Wars, faced an even greater threat in the Jedi Civil War, a conflict that was not just about territory or dominance, but the very essence of the Republic and the Jedi Order. At its epicenter stood Darth Malak, the apprentice-turned-usurper, wielding fleets produced by the Star Forge's insidious might. With Revan seemingly defeated, Malak assumed the mantle of Dark Lord. Unlike his predecessors' calculated and precise tactics, Malak waged a campaign of fear and devastation. Entire planets were bombarded into submission or annihilated outright. Civilian casualties mounted, and the Republic's spirit began to falter under the weight of Malak's brutal campaign. Where Revan had sought to control the galaxy through strategy, Malak sought to break it through sheer terror. The Jedi Order, already fractured and diminished by Revan's earlier conquests, struggled to adapt. Reports of fallen Jedi joining Malak's ranks deepened the Council's unease. Some members argued for direct engagement, while others advocated caution, fearing the dark side's corruptive influence. This internal division left the Order vulnerable, and every lost battle felt like a blow not just to the Republic, but to the Jedi's very identity. Amid this turmoil, Bastila Shan emerged as a beacon of hope. Her unique mastery of battle meditation, a force ability that turned the tide of battles by bolstering allied forces and disorienting enemies, proved instrumental in holding the Republic together. However, her prominence made her a target, and Malak pursued her with relentless fervor. Bastila's victories inspired resistance, but the weight of the war tested her resolve and strained her connection to the Force. The turning point of the war came through an unlikely twist of fate. During a Republic operation, Bastila's strike team captured Revan, who had survived Malak's betrayal. Gravely injured and stripped of his memories, Revan was brought before the Jedi Council. In a controversial decision, the Council chose not to execute him, but to erase his past and give him a chance at redemption. Revan, now unaware of his dark legacy, became a soldier for the Republic, guided by Bastila and a diverse crew of allies. Revan's journey to rediscover himself became a microcosm of the Republic's struggle. As he pursued the scattered star maps, ancient Rakatan artifacts leading to the Star Forge, he confronted echoes of his past and the consequences of his choices. Each discovery brought him closer to the truth, forcing him to grapple with the weight of his former actions and the path that lay ahead. Meanwhile, Malak's reliance on the Star Forge deepened, but it came at a cost. The Forge's dark energies corrupted not only him, but also his followers. The Sith Empire, though powerful, began to fracture under the strain of ambition and paranoia. Sith Lords vied for power, undermining each other as much as they fought the Republic. This internal chaos, combined with Revan's growing leadership, gave the Republic the opening it needed. The climax of the war unfolded in the orbit of the Star Forge. Revan, now fully aware of his identity but resolute in his redemption, led a daring assault against Malak's forces. The battle was monumental, with Republic fleets clashing against Sith armadas in a desperate bid to end the conflict. Deep within the Forge, Revan confronted Malak in a duel that was as much ideological as physical. Their struggle encapsulated the war itself, a battle between domination and redemption, darkness and light. Revan emerged victorious, defeating Malak and shutting down the Star Forge. The Sith Empire crumbled in the aftermath, its fleets scattered and its leadership decimated. Yet, the war left deep scars. The Republic was battered, the Jedi Order diminished, and the galaxy teetered on the edge of collapse. Healing would take generations, and the Jedi were left to rebuild in the shadow of their near destruction. The Jedi Civil War was more than a clash of armies. It was a battle for the galaxy's soul, testing the resilience of institutions and the strength of hope. Revan's journey from hero to villain and back to hero became a legend, a testament to the Force's capacity for redemption and the enduring struggle between light and dark. The galaxy survived the Jedi Civil War, but survival often leaves scars that run deep. Revan's triumph over Darth Malak brought a fragile peace, but the cost of victory reverberated across the Republic and the Jedi Order. In the war's aftermath, the galaxy faced a period of reflection and reckoning, grappling with the devastation that had left entire sectors shattered. The Republic, though technically victorious, was a shadow of its former self. Economies lay in ruin, trade routes were disrupted, and political unity had frayed. Countless systems, particularly those on the war's front lines, were left without resources or governance, forcing planets to fend for themselves. In the Senate, debates over Reconstruction revealed a fractured government, struggling to balance immediate needs with the long-term goal of stability. The challenge of demilitarizing a wartime galaxy while maintaining security added another layer of tension to the fragile Republic. For the Jedi Order, the war's toll was both external and internal. The loss of Jedi during the conflict had thinned their ranks, but it was the philosophical questions that haunted the Council. Revan and Malak had once been among their brightest lights. How had such promising figures fallen so deeply into the dark side? The Council's failure to foresee or prevent their descent called into question the very foundations of Jedi training and doctrine. The Order fractured in its response. One faction argued that the Jedi's detachment from emotions and personal connections had created a dangerous blind spot, leaving Revan and others without the support they needed. This group pushed for reforms that emphasized compassion and understanding. The opposing faction insisted that stricter adherence to the Jedi Code was the only way to guard against the dark side, believing that personal bonds had been the root of the problem. This schism underscored the tensions that would linger within the Jedi for generations. To adapt to a galaxy in need, the Jedi Order began decentralizing, establishing regional enclaves with greater autonomy. These enclaves were meant to strengthen local ties and make the Jedi more accessible, but the move also weakened the Order's unity. This decentralization, while well-intentioned, would leave the Jedi vulnerable to external manipulation in the years ahead. Revan's legacy became a contentious issue within the Order. Some hailed him as a figure of redemption, a testament to the Force's capacity to heal even the most broken soul. Others viewed him as a cautionary tale of unchecked ambition and the seductive power of the dark side. The Council sought to preserve Revan's story in Jedi teachings, but they sanitized the narrative, focusing on his redemption and downplaying the moral complexities of his actions. The destruction of the Star Forge marked the end of one immediate threat, but it raised unsettling questions. The existence of such a powerful relic tied to the Rakatan Infinite Empire suggested that the galaxy's ancient past held secrets capable of upending the present. Archaeologists and historians delved into the Rakata's history, uncovering chilling accounts of a galaxy once dominated by force-wielding tyrants. The Jedi sought to suppress these discoveries, fearing that knowledge of such power could inspire future dangers. Meanwhile, remnants of the Sith Empire lurked in the shadows. Though their fleets had been destroyed and Malak defeated, the Sith's ideology endured. Rogue Sith lords and dark side acolytes scattered across the galaxy, forming secretive enclaves and plotting their resurgence. The Jedi, tasked with hunting down these remnants, found themselves fighting a war against unseen enemies, a task as demoralizing as it was unending. Among those burdened by the war's legacy were Bastila Shan and Revan himself. Bastila, once a symbol of hope, withdrew from the public eye, seeking solace in meditation and teaching after the emotional toll of the conflict. Revan, whose actions had both saved and scarred the galaxy, vanished into the unknown regions. His departure left unanswered questions. Was he seeking peace, redemption, or a new threat that only he had foreseen? The galaxy learned a harsh truth in the war's aftermath. Peace is fragile, and survival is only the beginning. The Republic's institutions, once seen as pillars of stability, were exposed as vulnerable. The Jedi, revered as guardians of balance, were shown to be fallible. For citizens across the galaxy, the lessons of war were clear. No system, no matter how ancient or strong, was immune to collapse. In the quiet aftermath of the Jedi Civil War, the galaxy turned its eyes to the past, seeking to make sense of the devastation and the peculiar relics that had shaped it. Among the most haunting discoveries were the remnants of the Rakatan Infinite Empire, a civilization whose shadow stretched across the annals of history like a foreboding storm cloud. The war had torn open the veil of obscurity surrounding the Rakata, and what was revealed was nothing short of extraordinary. The Rakata, as it turned out, were more than just an ancient race. They were the architects of domination, wielding technology so advanced it bordered on sorcery. Their most infamous creation, the Star Forge, had been the engine of Darth Revan's and Malak's war machine, a terrifying construct that could conjure fleets from raw energy, fueled by the force and the suffering of countless slaves. But the Star Forge was only one piece of a larger puzzle. Explorations into Rakatan ruins uncovered a chilling reality. The Rakata had once ruled the galaxy with an iron grip. Their technology was intertwined with the Force in ways that even the Jedi found difficult to comprehend. Their star maps, scattered across the galaxy, spoke of a time when they had traversed the stars with ease, their empire spanning thousands of worlds. Yet their downfall, like their rise, was as much a cautionary tale as it was a mystery. The Rakata were masters of the dark side, using it to bend reality to their will. This reliance on the dark side, however, became their undoing. Historians pieced together fragmented records and glyphs to reveal a cataclysmic event. The Force itself had turned against them. Their connection to it, once a source of immense power, became a curse. Diseases ravaged their population, their once mighty fleets disintegrated, and the very slaves they had oppressed rose against them. In the end, the infinite empire crumbled, leaving only ruins and legends. The revelations about the Rakata sent ripples through the Jedi Order. For centuries, the Jedi had viewed the Force as a source of harmony and balance. Yet the Rakatan Legacy served as a grim reminder of the consequences of imbalance. If a civilization so attuned to the Force could fall so spectacularly, what did that mean for the Jedi? These questions haunted the Council as they debated how much of the Rakatan knowledge should be preserved and how much should be buried. The Republic, too, grappled with the implications of these discoveries. On the one hand, the Rakatan ruins represented untapped potential, ancient technologies that could rebuild what the war had destroyed. On the other hand, the dangers were palpable. The Star Forge had shown how easily such power could be corrupted. Efforts to study Rakatan artifacts were tightly controlled, with teams of scientists and Jedi working together to decipher their secrets. The most sensitive discoveries were confined to the vaults of the Jedi archives, accessible only to a select few. Despite these precautions, whispers of Rakatan relics filtered into the black markets of the galaxy. Smugglers, treasure hunters, and ambitious crime lords sought these artifacts, believing they held the key to unimaginable wealth and power. For the Jedi, this posed a new challenge. Not only did they have to guard against the Sith remnants, but they also had to track down and secure dangerous Rakatan technology before it fell into the wrong hands. One of the most perplexing mysteries was the Rakatan connection to the Force. Unlike the Jedi or Sith, who viewed the Force as an external energy to be harmonized or dominated, The Rakata had treated it as a raw resource to be consumed. This perspective was alien to the Jedi philosophy, yet it offered a stark warning about the potential for abuse. The Jedi scholars who studied these relics often described an uneasy feeling, as if the artifacts themselves carried echoes of their creator's hubris and despair. The Rakatan star maps became a focal point of exploration. These ancient charts, etched into stone or encoded into cryptic devices, hinted at worlds that had once been key to the infinite empire. Some of these planets, like Tatooine and Kashyyyk, were already known to the galaxy, though their histories had been obscured. Others, like Lehon, the Rakatan homeworld, remained shrouded in mystery. Expeditions to these sites revealed ruins that defied understanding, their structures imbued with a strange energy that seemed to hum with the Force itself. For the Republic's archaeologists, these discoveries were a treasure trove. For the Jedi, they were a Pandora's box. The ruins raised uncomfortable questions about the nature of the Force and the cycles of history. Was the galaxy doomed to repeat the Rakatan mistake? Could the lessons of their fall be applied to prevent future catastrophes, or was the temptation of power too great to resist? As the galaxy began to rebuild, the Rakatan Legacy became both a beacon and a warning. The Infinite Empire's fall was a testament to the dangers of hubris and the corruption of power. Yet their ruins, scattered across the stars, also offered a glimmer of hope, a chance to learn, adapt, and perhaps forge a better path. In the end, the Rakata were not just a relic of the past, but a mirror to the present. Their story, unearthed piece by piece, forced the galaxy to confront its own vulnerabilities and the ever-present shadow of the dark side. For the Jedi and the Republic alike, the Rakatan Legacy was a stark reminder. The Force is a gift, but it is also a test. As the galaxy began to heal from the scars of the Jedi Civil War, an insidious force quietly grew in the shadows. These were not Sith lords plotting grand conquests, nor opportunistic warlords vying for power in the chaos. Instead, they were something more focused, more deliberate, and more sinister. They called themselves the Inquisitors, and their emergence marked a chilling chapter in the galaxy's history. The Inquisitors were a paradoxical blend of hunters and prey. They were Force-sensitive beings trained in the ways of the dark side, but without the ambition to overthrow or usurp their Sith masters. At least, not openly. These were individuals conditioned to serve, their wills broken and reforged into tools of oppression. The Sith, particularly those fragments surviving after the tumult of the Civil War, saw the Inquisitors as a means to an end, instruments for rooting out and exterminating the lingering Jedi and controlling the spread of Force-sensitive individuals who could threaten their resurgence. The origins of the Inquisitors are murky, obscured by the deliberate erasure of records and the fragmented accounts left behind by survivors. Some say they were recruited from the remnants of Sith sympathizers and rogue Jedi who had fallen to the dark side. Others believe they were created through unnatural experiments, twisted by Sith alchemy to enhance their sensitivity to the Force and strip them of their humanity. Whatever their genesis, the Inquisitors were united by a singular purpose: to hunt and destroy. Their training was a cruel reflection of the Sith philosophy. The Inquisitors were not taught to become masters of the dark side. They were taught to fear it, to let it dominate them completely. Sith overseers subjected them to relentless trials, forcing them to face their deepest fears, their greatest weaknesses, and their most desperate desires. Failure was met with merciless consequences. Success came at the cost of their individuality. By the time they emerged as fully fledged hunters, the Inquisitors were weapons forged in pain and obedience. Unlike the Sith, who thrived on ambition and betrayal, the Inquisitors operated with a chilling efficiency. They were bound by a rigid hierarchy, with a Grand Inquisitor overseeing their operations. This figure, cloaked in mystery, was rumored to be a former Jedi turned dark side devotee. Their identity was a subject of endless speculation among those who studied the Inquisitors from afar. What was clear, however, was their ruthless competence. The Grand Inquisitor commanded with an iron grip, ensuring that every mission was carried out with precision. The Inquisitors were unleashed across the galaxy in secret, their operations masked by the Republic's political turmoil and the Jedi's struggle to rebuild. They infiltrated worlds where Jedi survivors had gone to ground, following the faintest whispers of Force activity. They employed fear and manipulation as much as brute strength, exploiting local populations to flush out their targets. A signature tactic involved using captured Jedi to bait their comrades into traps, creating a web of distrust and paranoia. The Inquisitors' arsenal was as diverse as their methods. They wielded lightsabers of crimson hue, a macabre echo of their Sith overlords. But unlike traditional Sith weapons, these lightsabers often featured rotating hilts, allowing for unique combat styles that disoriented their opponents. Beyond their weapons, the Inquisitors relied heavily on their ability to sense the Force. They were trained to sniff out its presence like predators catching a scent, making them unparalleled hunters of Force-sensitive prey. Despite their loyalty to the Sith, the Inquisitors were not immune to ambition. Whispers of rebellion and treachery occasionally emerged from their ranks. Some sought to escape the shadow of their masters, dreaming of independence or, in rare cases, redemption. These internal conflicts were ruthlessly suppressed by the Grand Inquisitor, who ensured that any signs of dissent were quashed before they could take root. For the Sith, this dynamic was a calculated gamble. They valued the Inquisitors for their utility, but ensured they were kept on a short leash, lest they grow too bold. For the Jedi, the rise of the Inquisitors represented a dire threat. The galaxy had become a dangerous place for their order, with each surviving Jedi forced into hiding. The Inquisitors exacerbated this struggle, turning safe havens into traps and allies into liabilities. Jedi who once stood as paragons of peace and justice now found themselves fugitives, hunted by creatures who knew their weaknesses and exploited their compassion. One of the most chilling aspects of the Inquisitors was their role in identifying and abducting Force-sensitive children. The Sith sought to ensure that these children were either corrupted or eliminated, denying the Jedi potential allies and strengthening their own ranks. Entire communities were left devastated in the wake of these operations, with families torn apart and worlds plunged into fear. As the Jedi struggled to adapt to this new threat, they began to realize the importance of unity. Lone survivors banded together, forming small enclaves to pool their resources and protect one another. These hidden gatherings became bastions of resistance, where the Jedi could train, plan, and strike back. The Inquisitors, however, were relentless, and the price of defiance was steep. The Inquisitors' rise marked a turning point in the galaxy's history. They were not just hunters, they were symbols of the Sith's enduring influence and the fragility of the Jedi Order's recovery. As the Jedi grappled with their new reality, the Inquisitors continued to tighten their grip, their shadows stretching across the stars. When the galaxy's light dimmed under the Inquisitors' relentless hunt, the Jedi Order faced a harsh truth. Survival depended on adaptation. The grand temples and open diplomacy were gone, replaced by the Jedi Underground, a scattered network of enclaves, safe houses, and sympathizers who risked everything to preserve the Jedi legacy. The Underground operated in secrecy, with sanctuaries hidden beneath Coruscant's bustling cities, deep within jungle planets, and aboard aging freighters that drifted between systems. It served as both a haven and a lifeline, relaying vital information about Inquisitor movements, safe travel routes, and Force-sensitive individuals in need of protection. To ensure secrecy, it relied on encrypted messages, codes, and Force-sensitive operatives capable of telepathic communication. Guardians, non-Jedi allies, played an essential role in this network. Merchants, smugglers, and diplomats provided resources and cover, motivated by loyalty, justice, or rebellion against the Empire. These unsung heroes worked alongside Jedi operatives who, forced into hiding, dismantled their lightsabers, and relied on the Force and ingenuity to navigate this perilous existence. Rescuing Force-sensitive children became a critical mission. Guardians passed whispers of unusual events, enabling Jedi operatives to locate and protect these younglings before the Inquisitors could. One such mission on Bracca became legendary, where Master Ranin orchestrated a daring escape, saving a child destined to become Ilana Vast, a future leader of the Underground. The Inquisitors, however, sought to destroy the Underground through infiltration. Their most insidious ploy involved Caris Valen, a former Padawan turned Imperial agent. Claiming to have escaped the Inquisitors, Caris manipulated an underground cell, exploiting their compassion. Despite early trust, inconsistencies in her story raised suspicions. Ilana Vast proposed feeding her disinformation, exposing her duplicity when an Imperial strike targeted the false location. In the confrontation that followed, Caris revealed her allegiance to the dark side, but the Underground escaped, albeit shaken. The betrayal underscored the fragility of trust within the Underground, but it also spurred resilience. Leaders like Ilana strengthened protocols, decentralizing operations to protect the network. Ranin became a symbol of determination, reminding Jedi and Guardians alike that even in failure, the fight for survival and justice endured. The Underground's alliance with the Rebel Alliance marked a turning point. A joint mission on Marka, necessitated by Isalamiri suppressing Jedi powers, forced both groups to rely on each other's strengths. The Rebels' tactical expertise complemented the Jedi's ingenuity, forging bonds through shared sacrifice. Despite initial distrust, the alliance solidified as both groups recognized their shared enemy and collective potential. Inquisitor Kyle's relentless campaign tested this unity, with devastating attacks on enclaves like Haven. Yet, even in the face of losses, the Underground adapted. Ranin's leadership and Ilana's strategy ensured that scattered cells regrouped, keeping hope alive. A mission to uncover Project Luminary, the Empire's superweapon, brought the Underground and Rebels closer, revealing the Death Star's horrific purpose and galvanizing the Resistance. Though battered by relentless attacks and betrayals, the Jedi Underground proved indomitable, a testament to the enduring spirit of the Order. In the face of overwhelming odds, its members displayed unwavering resilience, adapting to every challenge with ingenuity and courage. Guardians, Jedi, and allies worked together, forming a network that safeguarded the vulnerable, provided sanctuary, and resisted the Empire's oppressive grip. Through their actions, the Underground preserved the essence of the Jedi Order, protecting its teachings and ideals from being extinguished. Every safe house, secret mission, and rescued life became a symbol of hope, a quiet but powerful act of defiance against tyranny. Even as the galaxy buckled beneath the oppressive weight of the Empire's shadow, the Jedi Underground stood as a quiet yet steadfast reminder that hope was not lost. Its persistence echoed across star systems, inspiring those who longed for freedom and justice. For every safe house hidden in the shadows of Coruscant's lower levels, for every daring rescue of a Force-sensitive child, and for every whisper of defiance passed through encrypted channels, the Underground proved that resistance was not futile, but essential. The Force, an eternal and unyielding light, remained at the heart of their efforts, a beacon shining through the darkness, uniting the oppressed and emboldening the brave. The Underground's resilience was a living testament to the idea that tyranny could never completely extinguish the spirit of those who dared to fight. It guided the galaxy's dreamers and warriors alike, illuminating a path toward a future where freedom might thrive once more.